Hello, it's Edward Earl, CEO Growth Team here with Rasmussen Ironworks and Solaire Grills with Greg and Suzette from the Cozy Fireplace. How are you guys doing?
Good. Good, very good.
Enjoying the show?
Excellent. So far, yes, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, give me an idea of your guys' organization. What do you do and how long have you been doing it?
A Cozy Fireplace is a family-owned business for over 15 years. We pride ourselves in sales and service of the products that we sell. We also do full installs, whether it be stone or whether it be a glass door or a gas log. We also pride ourselves in quality, and we've been...
Well, we're basically a chain of fireplace stores. We have a total of 5 in the Chicagoland area. We started the business, like she said, 15 years ago, and we're just a specialty shop.
Now, what got you into the business? Is this your background, or what finally got you there?
What got us into the business was when my husband and I first met. He was in an industry called Great Home and Fireplace. Okay. And when we married, he was into the fireplace industry. What happened was he worked for other dealers.
And of course, over the time, we figured we could, you always think you can do it better, and that's when we decided to open our own business and give it a shot.
We wanted to be our own bosses and have a family business for our son.
That's interesting. Now, is the family all involved in the organization?
Off and on, they have been, absolutely.
Right, and that's got to make it nice when it's all said and done.
Yes, it is.
Well, and plus, it's interesting because that's really what these types of products are. I mean, if you look at fireplaces as a whole, families gather around that.
One of the best events we have every year is we get someone who will come in and will install a fireplace in their house right before Christmas. And there's nothing more rewarding in the world than when the kids come in and they're all excited. They see the fire for the first time.
Yeah.
And you know, you've affected their lives for a long time.
It really is interesting. There's not a lot of things that you can do generally to the interior of a home that can make that big of a dynamic impact, not only visually, but just everywhere across the board.
Absolutely.
Nobody does that when you paint the house. Nobody gathers. It's not a place where people come together. It doesn't build relationships like something like a fireplace.
Sure, even putting in a gas log set in a fireplace that hasn't been used for years, you put this in and then all of a sudden there's a fire. And the kids come out and they're all excited and the parents are all excited. And
do you think when people are looking at maybe redoing their old fireboxes or whether they're designing a home, do you think that they really think about kind of the ramifications of what happens when you put something like that in?
I think a lot of times they're surprised after the fact. I mean, I think they give some thought to it, but I think as the process continues, I think they get more and more excited about it.
Yeah, I can imagine that that's true. I know in my family I've got 6 children. The gal that I married has 4, and we've got a big chunk of, we got a brood of children. But the reality is that that's one of our favorite places to be, right there in front of the big fireplace. And it's a gas fireplace, just hanging out.
It's a Christmas story.
Yeah, and it's like that almost especially in the wintertime, it's like that every single night. And it makes a huge difference because it seems to be that when you flick that little switch and that goes on, everybody ends up showing up. And even if we're not just talking, if people are reading, playing their iPad games, we're still just there.
It becomes the focal point of the house.
It becomes the focal point of the house. And it's funny how you can just flip the switch, the flames go up, and then 10 minutes later, there's everybody.
Sure.
You don't even have to say anything. It just attracts, I mean, not to say it's moths to a flame, but it really kind of is.
Exactly.
And it makes it nice because other than that, it just seemed like before, kids kind of get lost in the house somewhere and we're not really together. So
it brings back the family in one unit.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's what I'm wondering if people, because in today's world and the way that we are, it is that division of not just parents and children, but just people in general, and it's hard to bring everybody back together.
Absolutely true. I mean, these days a lot of people don't even eat dinner together anymore. The family meal is not like it used to be, and you're right. This is a time when it's cold out, everybody comes home and towards the end of the evening, and they all stay and hang out by the fireplace.
Sparks those conversations, keeps those relationships, and I'm not saying it's a stretch to say that you put in a new fireplace and you build better relationships, but it is a major effect of something like that, and I think people don't actually think about
kind of an unintended effect.
Very much so.
I think it's tradition.
Yeah.
And we need tradition nowadays.
And I think you're right, and I think it's ingrained in us as human beings that we want to do that, but when you don't have that in your house, you're kind of missing the mechanism.
The warm feeling.
That's true. The cozy feeling.
The cozy feeling.
Oh, there you go.
There's where the name comes from.
That's where it came from.
It's just interesting because when I interview, I've interviewed so many CEOs, and our organization's work with about 70,000+ around the world.
Sure.
Organizations. And especially in this industry, we hear a lot about the competitive nature, things being sold on the web, which we'll talk about a little bit. But at the same time, what we almost never hear is this side, which is a side I think that people don't think about, or even when they're putting it in, they're really more focused on the mechanics of it and everything else, not really the end result.
Absolutely.
So that makes an interesting difference. Your organization is highly competitive against other people in your industry. What sets you guys apart?
Probably the biggest difference is it's the owners that are actually operating the store.
Right.
It's the owners that are actually going out there and doing the work. It's perfectly normal for me to be at somebody's house at 7 o'clock in the morning installing a gas log set.
It's true.
Back at their house at 8 o'clock at night, somebody else's house at 8 o'clock at night, getting that fireplace up and running that hasn't been working for 10 years.
Right.
And getting back.
A lot of our competitors they don't do that themselves. They hire people out to do that.
It's hard to keep an eye on the quality of your workmanship.
And we do that specifically to keep our thumb on the pulse of what's going on in the industry, too.
Right. Yeah, it's hard if you're not connecting with the consumers on a daily basis.
Exactly.
We definitely connect with the consumers.
Now, what about the web traffic? I mean, obviously, the web has impacted every industry, but your guys' especially, it's impacted your industry. How does that come across?
We certainly compete with the web. I mean, it's a big issue in our industry. The good news is not all of our manufacturers sell on the web, so that's a good thing. In fact, they police that. But much more importantly, even if you buy something on the web, you're not getting that customer service.
Right.
Who are you going to call when something's not working properly?
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, we hear it all the time. People ordered something on the web, got it home, and it wasn't what they needed.
Right.
Then they have to ship it back. They've lost time and money in doing all of that, and then they come to us, and then we take care of them.
And that's what I see happens a lot of times because of maybe the lack of the marketing distribution and the kinds of content like what you guys are so gracefully doing here on video. It gives people an understanding that this is where you're supposed to go. Right. But when that's not available, a lot of times you're right, they end up in the web. And I was just making a comment to a couple of other individuals in your industry saying that one of the problems I think that happens because of the web, one of the benefits, it does expose the industry to a lot more people, broader, but because they don't get to experience firsthand organizations like yours on a consistent basis.
Yeah, it's not one-on-one type of.
They start narrowing down what they actually choose from. So all of a sudden you have a small group of products that people are buying, but they're not experiencing what they really would like to put in their
Which would be
home.
Service and education, informative.
And the quality of the product.
And the quality of the product.
And not being able to see things on a showroom photo, see what it actually looks like.
Absolutely.
They see it on a screen.
See them burning. I mean, you go into a big box store, you're not going to see anything burning.
You're not going to see nothing burning.
It's stuff made overseas.
Yeah, it's not the same thing as...
It's not American made.
Right. And that makes a big difference.
The gas grill industry is very analogous to that. A lot of times we get people in, we're not their first gas grill.
Right.
But they've gone down that road. They bought a couple inexpensive gas grills, either at a big box store or online, and then they come back and they didn't last very long, and they had all kinds of issues with them. So finally they come to a specialty shop and want to know what can they do to get something better that's going to work and work long and that kind of
that's
thing.
going to last longer than 2 years, and that won't fall apart.
Yeah.
And that'll be there when they have their family party and what so.
And it's funny because a lot of times people, no matter how much education they have, they still have to stair-step their way up financially into the thing that they really wanted. I remember doing that, first buying guitars. I knew what I wanted was a $1,500 guitar, but I just couldn't bear to, at the moment, do it. And then I bought the $200 one, hated it, couldn't return it. Bought the $400. By the time I was done, I had about $3,000 worth of guitars.
Exactly. You should have just bought the $1,500.
I should have bought the $1,500 one from the very beginning and saved myself 2 years and a lot of frustration.
But that's trial and error, and that's what we're here for after you have succumbed to that.
Yeah, and it does make... Now, how many locations do you guys have?
Total of 5.
Total of 5. So that makes a big difference. How do you guys compete against all of the other things that are out there, because it's so competitive? You're dealing with people that are potentially going to Home Depot, even Walmart.
One of the nice things about having 5 stores is at least we are able to buy a little bit better than your single store operation.
Sure.
So that gives us a chance to maybe have a little better price point for our consumers as well. So we're not really down to the level of the big box, the hardware stores and that kind of thing. but we're not leaps and bounds away from them either.
Plus, I think if people were on the inside, I think that's the thing that's tough for most of you consumers, is that you're not on the inside of the industry. So you don't get a chance to see how a Home Depot buys and what they buy specifically.
Sure.
It's not the same quality.
And our common immediate question is, well, how did it look burning?
Yeah.
Well, they're not burning over there.
Right.
And there's a reason for that.
And it's like, why would you buy something that you have not seen burning? And plus, the fact remains, it's not American made, so it's not made with quality products and with the heart and sweat of American.
Well, and it's funny because you look at a lot of things, and for example, in dealing with a lot of CEOs and a lot of organizations around the world, it's, I deal with every kind of industry and every kind of nationality, but the reality is that you got to look at the business model, and I think most people don't realize this, of what happens when you have an Asian contingent come into an industry. When you look at American-made stuff, especially like the Rasmussens, from conception and design, they are thinking not only of sales and profitability, but more specifically, before any of that, what's it going to look like in someone's home?
Right.
What kind of serviceability is it going to need or not need, and let's try to eliminate that. How is that going to impact if there's a problem to my dealers, to my retailers, to my distributors? How is that going to affect your brand and your relationship with it? They look at all of that stuff. And then once that stuff is all built, then what seems to happen is we end up having an Asian contingent come in and say, okay, how do we make something similar and aesthetically and quasi-functionality, but they're not thinking about it. When you don't do that and you're trying to knock things off, you are missing all of the essential things that go into the design, all the unseen things.
The pieces to the puzzle to complete it.
You don't know it, and so when you send it out there...
Can it look like this is their only issue?
It's only their issue, and because they know that most people won't dig for the information and realize that a product like the Rasmussen is the only thing you really ought to own.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's going to last you a lot longer.
I have found that to be with a lot of my customers that come into the shop. When I say American-made products, their eyes bright up. They're excited. They're like, yes, we love that. Thank you. And I'm like, yes, because we believe in quality. We believe that this product is going to last for 20, 30 years.
Right.
And that's what we carry.
Well, and the funny thing also is American-made products, you can't get away with a lot of the low, because we are the largest financial base in the world. We have the biggest amount of consumers. We spend the most amount of money on just about everything.
Sure.
And so that being said, and not to mention our ability to have freedom of speech and consumerism, if there's something that's not good, we can make a big stink about it.
Absolutely.
And I think in a lot of other nations, they don't have those same liberties. So our level of quality seems to always be on the up and up, because if we're not, we're out of business in this country.
That's right.
There's no way you can be around for 100 plus years
like
the Rasmussens have and not have the highest level quality. It's just not even physically possible.
Yep, there's a lot of, how would you say it, international countries that are going down with their products because they're not quality.
And it takes a little time, but people figure it out. And
they understand. Sooner or later they get it.
Yes, they do.
They come back.
Like you did with your $1,500 guitar.
Back to the gas grill thing.
Back to the gas grills. You figure it out. So advice for people that are out there looking for these types of products, what advice do you have for them?
Do your research. I would say shop local if you can. Come in and actually look at displays, get your hands on them, see what it looks like, feel what it feels like, feel the weight of it, feel the quality of it. Definitely, is it a place where you can purchase it, where you can come back and get advice on it, come back and get some service on it. All of those things are very important.
And it does make a difference, because from your guys' standpoint, it's not just product movement. You are installing, you are servicing.
Absolutely.
So you get to see all of the things that nobody sees when they're looking at a little display at Lowe's.
Right, and even if they're going to put it in themselves, whether it's a gas lug set or a whole fireplace, if you buy one from Lowe's, who are you going to call when you're in the middle of putting it in and don't understand what you're doing?
Yeah,
if you buy one from us, we're going to, I'm on the phone all day long with people, explaining to them what they need to know on how to do it, Classic example, we get people who need to relight their pilots every year. Yeah. Instead of us charging them $150 to go out and relight their pilots, all we do is we talk them through it over on the phone.
Exactly.
Yeah, been there.
Well, that's when you buy it from a specialty store.
Right. And people don't calculate that. What are some of the things, it's interesting seeing guys on the inside, the real inside of the industry, the top 2 or 3 kind of disturbing things that you see from some of these knockoff type products?
Well, certainly the issue with replacement parts. For example, if you buy an overseas gas log set, there's a thermocouple on them, needs to be replaced every once in a while. Well, if you buy one from Lowe's or Menards this year, or Home Depot or whatever this year, 2 years from now when you need to replace that part, all of a sudden that's a brand they don't import anymore.
Right.
Now you've got a useless gas log set. You paid $150, $200, however much money you paid for it, whatever money you saved on it has gone out the window because now you have to buy a whole new set because you can't get a little $10 replacement part. We see that all the time.
Yeah. It's interesting because most people don't realize, again, back to the inside of the industry, a lot of the stuff that's being manufactured overseas is private label OEM.
Right.
So Lowe's or a Home Depot or some organization may import a XYZ brand, but that brand didn't do well. A year and a half, 2 years later, the brand's non-existent. Even if the manufacturer of that brand is still around, building 15 other brands, you have no idea what that is. There's no cross-referencing to that. That stuff is non-existent.
Right, and the kid working at the store certainly is not going to help you.
He's definitely not even there anymore.
No, he can't help you. He can't even troubleshoot your question.
His younger brother's not going to be able to help you.
Yes, exactly.
That's interesting. So where do you see the organization, your guys' organization, in 5 years?
Right now, the way that the economy is, I foresee that we will increase our sales and expand.
We're looking at slow, steady growth. I mean, obviously the economy took a dip a couple years ago, and it's kind of shaken out some of the competition. Some of them have gone by the wayside. The good news is it's kept the stronger ones. It's given us an opportunity to hire on the best of the installers in our immediate market. It's giving us the opportunity to really dial in what we do. And that over time will give us time to be able to expand our growth.
Do you think
slow and steady, though.
Do you think there's any truth to the fact that the economy has slowing for so long? Obviously, we're thinking that we're on the uptake here, that people start doing less out-of-home entertaining and more in-home entertaining.
Absolutely, and of course right now a lot of people aren't able to change homes.
Right.
The market the way it is, they're either in over their head on their current house, or they can't sell it because there's no market to sell it. So you're staying where you're at. If you're staying where you're at, you want to upgrade it.
Absolutely.
If you can't move, you want to make it to what you want it to be.
And that's what happened during those years a long time ago when there were tax deductions for improving your home. People would stay in their homes. And once that started to go away, you started to watch the shift where every 3 to 5 years people were just switching houses, changing houses,
now
changing houses.
Now they cannot do that.
They can't do that.
Certainly the pendulum is swinging back the other way.
And it seems like that's where people, because I know for our family, we like being at home and we like gathering around the fireplace, and it becomes
the focal point.
The focal point of it, and I think that people are starting to do that.
Absolutely.
And I think that's going to create a resurgence again in your guys' industry specifically.
Yes, it is.
So any last words for your customers?
I would say come see us.
Now, where can they
see what we can do to take care of you?
We have 5 locations.
Is there one central number or that they can call?
Our webpage, cozyfireplace.com.
That's easy enough.
All one word.
Well, guys, thanks for being here with me.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everything. We'll talk.